His lips were still wet from my niece's goodbye kiss when he walked into my house, eyes full of guilt and something darker. Dave said he needed to apologize. That was his reason. He stood there with those trembling hands and restless eyes, saying he could not live with what he had done. But he never said what exactly he meant. I offered him a seat. He declined. He looked around like the walls were watching us. Then he stepped closer and asked if I remembered what happened 6 years ago. My heart dropped. My knees buckled. I did remember. I remembered everything. The night I gave my body to a man who never called me back, a man who looked just like Dave. Then he said it. I think I am your son. But what happened next was not motherly. I kissed him. And when he pushed me against the wall, I begged him to forget the past, to make me forget it too. I begged him to fuck me hard. What came after would break more than just one heart. Before I dive deeper, let me take a moment to thank every single one of you watching right now. If you are a subscriber, thank you so much for your love and support. You are the reason this channel stays alive and thriving. To my returning viewers who are yet to hit that subscribe button, what are you waiting for? That little red button is the fuel that powers this channel, and I truly cannot wait to welcome you into our storytelling family. Make sure you hit like, share your thoughts in the comments, and let us know how these stories make you feel. Now let us go back to where it all truly began. My name is Rebecca. I live in Lafayette, Louisiana. I am 58 years old, divorced for over 12 years. No children, no pets, just memories. My home is quiet most days, but my mind never is. My niece, Stephanie, is 20. She is my sister's only daughter. She moved in with me last year after their constant fighting got too loud. I was her refuge, her second mother, her friend. Then came Dave, 21, charismatic, smart, a little broken. He worked part-time at a mechanic shop and studied graphic design at a community college. Stephanie met him at a food truck festival, and they had been inseparable ever since. I did not like him at first. Something about him felt too familiar, too close to my past. Then one Saturday afternoon, Stephanie had gone to visit a friend. Dave knocked on my door looking pale and shaky. He asked if we could talk alone. I assumed he had done something stupid and wanted help fixing it before Stephanie found out. I made him tea. He never touched it. Instead, he told me something that burned through my soul. 6 years ago, I had a brief, messy affair with a man I met during a Mardi Gras night in New Orleans. He was charming, wild, unforgettable. He left without a word. All I remembered was his name, Marcus. Dave said Marcus was his father. My legs felt like they would snap. He stared at me with tears in his eyes and whispered, "You are the first woman to ever look at me the way you did that day when we met." I never forgot it. My brain screamed for logic. My body leaned in closer. Then it happened. Our lips met like magnets that had waited too long. He kissed me slow at first, almost like asking for permission. Then harder. Deeper. I let it happen. I wanted it to happen. He pulled away and said, "This is wrong." I grabbed his hand and said, "Make it feel right." I dragged him to the living room couch. My hands trembled as I unbuckled his belt. My heart was thudding so hard, I thought it might explode. He kissed my neck, my shoulder, my soul, and when he finally entered me, I gasped so loud the silence shattered. It was not just sex. It was release. It was revenge on time. It was rage against loneliness. It was a woman finally feeling wanted again. When we finished, I collapsed into his chest, drenched in guilt and sweat. But before he could leave, I begged him to stay. I begged him not to let me return to the silence. I begged him to come back. He looked at me and said, "If I come back, there is no turning back." I nodded, and then he walked out, leaving my door open and my heart even more exposed. But he did come back. And the next time, we did not stop at the couch. The second time Dave came back, it was raining. The sky over Lafayette was a sick, gray sheet, and the wind sounded like it carried secrets. I had not seen him for a week. Stephanie said he had been off, that he barely returned her texts. I acted like I had no clue, but my body knew. My body remembered. That night he knocked once, not twice. One sharp knock. I opened the door, and there he was, drenched, breathless, wearing that same black hoodie he wore the first night we crossed the line.
We did not speak.
We just stared. And then he stepped inside, dripping on my hardwood floor like he owned the house. I should have stopped him, but I stepped aside. We made love on the kitchen counter, my hips pressed against cold granite, my moans muffled by the storm outside. He whispered things in my ear I had never heard from a man my own age. Things that made me forget I was his girlfriend's aunt. Things that made me forget I was even human. I felt like something ancient.
Wild.
Reborn. Afterward, we lay on the floor.
Silent.
Spent. He looked at the ceiling and said, "You know, I thought about you every night since the first time. I have never felt anything like this. It is not just sex." I felt my throat tighten. That was the exact line Marcus said to me 6 years ago. That line haunted me. I sat up and said, "You cannot say that to me, Dave. Not again." He looked confused. Again? I did not answer. I just stood up and went to the sink, scrubbing at plates that were already clean. That week, everything changed. Stephanie started acting suspicious. She caught me staring into space too many times. She said I had been smiling more, walking lighter. She joked, "Aunt Becky, you seeing someone? Got a little sugar in your tank again?" I laughed too hard. It sounded fake, but she bought it. Or so I thought. 2 days later, I received a text from Dave. "I cannot stop thinking about your touch." And then another. "Tonight. Your room. Midnight." I should have deleted them. Instead, I reread them 5 times and shaved my legs for the first time in 3 months. Midnight came. The house was still. Stephanie had gone to bed early after a long shift at work. I left the door unlocked and waited under the covers. Dave came in like a thief.
He did not speak.
He crawled under my sheets and kissed every part of me like he had memorized the map of my body. He said my name like it was a prayer, over and over. When I came, I bit the sheet to keep from screaming. Afterward, he lay beside me, holding me, whispering promises I tried not to believe. He said, "If she ever finds out, I will take the blame." I whispered, "You are just a boy." He answered, "I am your man." The next morning, everything fell apart. I heard Stephanie scream from the hallway. Then I heard her footsteps charging toward my room. She burst through the door, holding Dave's phone in her hand. Her eyes were wild.
Red. Betrayed.
She screamed, "What the fuck is this, Aunt Becky?" Dave sat up, naked under my sheets. His face drained of all color. Stephanie threw the phone at him, then at me. "You are disgusting. Both of you." My mouth opened, but no words came out. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard. A photo frame fell from the wall. I sat there, frozen, wrapped in the warmth of a man and the cold of betrayal. My niece had seen everything, and I had no idea how to fix any of it. Stephanie did not come home that night. She did not come home the next night either. Her room remained untouched, her clothes still hanging, her perfume still lingering in the air like a memory refusing to fade. But the girl who had once called me her second mother, her safe space, was gone. And the silence she left behind was the loudest sound I had ever heard. Dave tried to stay. He cooked breakfast the next morning like nothing had happened. He touched me like he still belonged. He kissed me like my niece had not just caught us in bed together. But I could not eat. I could not breathe. Everything about him, his smell, his voice, the way his lips curled when he smirked, reminded me of the man who started all of this 6 years ago. Marcus. His father. My mistake. My unfinished wound. I finally asked Dave, "Why did you come to me that first night? What did you really want?" He looked at me and said, "I wanted answers. I wanted to see if you were who I thought you were. But once I looked into your eyes, I did not care anymore. I just wanted you." I slapped him. Not hard, but hard enough to make my hand sting. He stood there, stunned, holding his cheek like he had been hit by more than just fingers. I shouted, "You broke her. You broke me. You came in here and made me forget who I am." He replied, "No. I made you remember. I made you feel again. And I would do it again." I fell to the floor, sobbing. He sat beside me, touched my face, whispered things I did not want to hear. "I love you, Rebecca." I pulled away and screamed, "I am your father's mistake." He froze. It was the first time I had said it aloud. The first time I let it burn its way out of my mouth. I told him everything. About Marcus. About the night in New Orleans. About the way he disappeared. And how every time I looked at Dave, I saw the ghost of a man who used me and vanished. He cried. For the first time, he looked like a child. Not a lover. Not a man. Just a boy who never asked for any of this. "I did not know," he whispered. "I wish I did not either," I said. Stephanie came home 3 days later. She did not speak to me. She packed her things while I sat at the kitchen table with a glass of wine and a heart made of shattered glass. She only said one thing before she walked out. "You were the only woman I ever trusted." Then she was gone. Dave tried to call her. She blocked him. He tried to come back to me. I shut the door in his face. Some nights, I still feel his ghost in my bed. I still remember the way he made me moan. The way he touched me like I was not 58 and forgotten. The way he looked at me like I mattered. But desire is a dangerous drug. And I overdosed. I lost my niece. I lost my dignity. And I lost myself in the arms of a boy who was never meant to be mine. The truth is, sometimes we think we are lonely when we are just avoiding healing. And sometimes the person who wakes us up is the same one who burns us alive. I wanted to forget the past. Instead, I made a new one that hurts even more. Now I want to hear from you. What would you have done? Was it lust? Was it trauma? Was it love? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one of them. Do not forget to share this video with someone who needs a wild, twisted story, and please subscribe if you have not yet. Your support keeps this channel alive and burning with raw, emotional truth. Until next time, stay bold, stay honest, stay human.